figure out what's going on and attempt something. I mean, you think you could rally a community around something, but then again, I just don't relate to these kind of communities where they are kind of torn by gangs and there's just a terrible situation.
Yeah, but I think that's a good idea because you can get most people to agree that they want their children to have success.
Yeah.
So I think if you can convince these people that by doing this, they will get some sort of a success for their children and in turn for them, that there might be some more, there might be a lot more support than what we think.
Maybe just educate the parents on what they can do to help their students succeed.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah, it'd be great if they started some sort of group for the parents. Mm-hmm. You had some sort of weekly thing or something where they go with the kid or something like that, and they could see what the kid's doing in school. Something really simple that just shows them what their child is doing and then creates some sort of, false fuel to make the student want to do more. Yeah. Because he's just like, look at what I can do, blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing.
Yeah, and, maybe you can have a kind of support group for the parents and say, what are the issues you guys are seeing? And then you can have some kind of transparency between the people that are making these policies and the people that are being enforced, that are having the policies enforced on them. And you can see, what's working, what's not working, what can they do different, what can they do better, what should they stop doing because it's not working. And I think there needs to be a lot of communication. I mean, 5,000 schools seems like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, we said it's only 1%. Mm-hmm. And you really could get enough people to really sit down and focus and put a lot of time and energy into this if they're serious about it.
Yeah, and this is the one issue we really need to focus on because education is a silver bullet. If you fix education, a lot of the other issues and problems we have in this world will go by the wayside because our population is educated.
I agree. I mean, that's the key to everything.
Absolutely.
That's the key to everything. We talk a lot about the falling numbers in education around here, but if we can start, if you get these habits ingrained in them when they're 8 years old, when they're just starting school, it's going to help the entire country. And if you help these people now, their children and their children's children will all have a better life. So it starts here, and then you just have to keep reinforcing and keep fostering these good habits, you guys, that they're getting in these children.
Agreed. All right, let's move on to our next topic. Currently, in the Senate, this is a part of the healthcare debate. They are battling over whether or not to expand Medicare to cover abortions. Now, you've heard quite a bit about there's not federally funded abortions in this upcoming healthcare bill. And there are several people who think that is ridiculous, and because it covers Viagra, one of which is Senator Barbara Boxer. And we have a clip from her on the Senate floor.
The people who bring us this, and mostly it's going to be the men who speak on this, I think. We'll see if that's right or wrong, but I think I'd predict that. The men who have brought us this don't single out a procedure that's used by a man or a drug that is used by a man that involves his reproductive health care and say they have to get a special rider. There's nothing in this amendment that says if a man someday wants to buy Viagra, for example, that his pharmaceutical coverage cannot cover it, that he has to buy a rider. I wouldn't support that. And they shouldn't support going after a woman using her own private funds for her reproductive health care. Is it fair to say to a man, you're going to have to buy a rider to buy Viagra, and this will be public information, could be accessed? No, I don't support that. I support a man's privacy just as I support a woman's privacy.
And that's, to me, typical Barbara Boxer, kind of blurring the lines of what's going on here. I mean, there's a difference between a drug to stimulate your reproductive organs than she just blurs it between using private and public funds, first of all, and then she also blurs it in the fact that there's a drug to stimulate you and then a drug or procedure that could, in essence, kill a living thing. We're not going to get into that, but depending what you think is living and what isn't.
Yeah, we're not going to
get
into when a child is a child and all that kind of business. But do you guys agree? Do either of you agree with Barbara Boxer here?
Agree is a strong word, but I kind of see where she's coming from.
But she's blurring the lines.
She is blurring the lines to make her point.
Yeah.
She is doing that, but I kind of see where she's coming from, and I can agree with what she's saying.
Yeah, she's all about protecting the privacy of both men and women, which everyone's on board with that. But then she says the phrase something like using private funds to help her with something. Well, if it's her own private funds, you have no control over that. We're talking about federally funded abortions, Barbara. What is that's not private. Federal money is public.
I think she was saying, though, she's trying to say, make the comparison that you can use public for Viagra, but you can't use public for abortion. She's trying to show the disparity between that.
I guess I could see that, but I think that, this is going to come across kind of sexist, and I apologize in advance, but that's just the nature of the beast. You're a woman, and you have the child in you, so it's a little different than getting a drug to stimulate.
That's the nature.
Yeah, exactly. But you see what I'm trying to say though is that a drug to stimulate a man for sexual intercourse is different than a drug that could kill a living thing.
Yes, I see the difference. I agree that there's a major difference there, and that she is blurring the lines. But she has a legitimate point because it's not something. Again, that it's because we are also getting into, I think, necessity, and there are times when an abortion is necessary because the mother could be dying. There are those kind of situations where Viagra, I don't really know when that's going to be necessary.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
Unless you're in a very odd hostage situation. I don't really foresee that being an issue. So,
wow. I agree. That's you got to get a necessity.
Yeah.
There's no federally guaranteed right to sex, so
there isn't. There's absolutely nothing.
It sounds
there.
ridiculous, and that once you start thinking about that, her argument starts to fall apart.
Yeah, I just don't think either should be funded, personally.
Yeah,
but
no.
Both of you think that neither should be funded?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think that...
I don't think either one should be funded. I know that there's, like I said, I made the argument against myself by saying that there are abortions that are necessary, but I just don't know how well that you're not gonna be able to achieve anything if that's in there.
That's a simple fix, though. Is it you can just make a clause in there or an amendment saying, no federally funded abortions except for in the case of a mother's health.
I would actually go opposite, saying that both should be legal and funded.
You'd be in support of paying for somebody else's grandfather to get Viagra?
If we're doing a public health care, then yes, I would.
But that doesn't make any sense. Why? That's not, he doesn't need that to survive.
No, he doesn't.
That's a want.
But his private...
That's a want, not a need. So why are we paying for...
pursuit of happiness. No, I'm just kidding.
But why are we paying for other people's wants?
I'm trying to explain.
I know, I'm sorry. That doesn't make any sense to me.
If his private medical care would pay for that. So if we want a public option, why shouldn't the public option pay for that?
Because the public option isn't paid by, or the private option isn't paid by taxpayers. It's paid by that company. So that's their own money to decide what they want to do with. The public is our money. So we have every right to decide what is and what is not allowed to be paid for.
This is Medicare now. The public option's gone. Remember that.
Yeah, so it's Medicare and Medicaid.
The public option no longer exists. It's going to be some other weird thing that they like I said in the headlines, they won't tell us until the Congressional Budget Office figures out how much it's going to cost.
I just don't I just think that this is another time where people are putting wants ahead of needs. You need, your medicine for high blood pressure, for stuff like that. You don't need Viagra.
See, they cover Viagra, but they do not cover insulin for diabetes.
Now that's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
So the money should go because I've read into that and it is absolutely absurd. So if they don't cover insulin, they don't cover Viagra in my book. But
yeah,
that's just that's on the long list of things.
Could that be
change.
A cause of lobbying by the pharmaceutical companies, though?
That could be part of it, and I'm sure that is part of it. But also, you run into a lot. It just creates an enormous amount of cost because if you look at obesity rates and diabetes rates, a lot of people have to be covered. So it's more about this is going to cost the government a ton.
Well, if you stop covering drugs like Viagra and Cialis and stuff like that, then you'd be okay.
I want to bring it back to abortion. So you don't think Medicaid or Medicare should pay for abortion?
I really hope that senior citizens are not needing abortions.
Oh, like the public option, the public option should not.
Well,
or
whatever
it is.
whatever
so
the
you're
new thing
you're getting
is.
back into the public option.
Yes,
whatever they create,
whatever they create,
because it's not going to be gone. We're not.
Yeah.
It's going to have a different name.
They
It's a
even told
branding
us.
thing.
They even told us they're going to try and trick us.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, "We're going to come out with something." What was that, Senator? But yeah, it's still going to be the same thing.
I don't